Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to Season 5 and episode number 645, I think, or 44. I'm mixed up in the numbers of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Monday, May 12th, 2025. So this is episode 645. And it is a nice day here at the Beaver Lodge. Just looking at the sky here, and I'm seeing some sun peeking up through the roofs and some blue sky, just a little bit of cloud. So it looks like it'll be a nice day here. Hope the temperature will be nice. It's been a little cool. Had a couple of warm-ish days, but still cool here for getting close to mid-May here at the Beaver Lodge. But it's really nice for the tulips because they're not being overheated, and they're really lovely right now. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A. And with me for a little bit is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly, because spring means allergy season, and he's not doing too well today. Big thank you. Yeah. Big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corbin Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Mr. Grizzly, how's your mental health today, and how are you feeling otherwise?
Well, mental health, honestly, the jury's completely out on that one because I suffered horribly yesterday. Today is starting out the same way. It's allergy season. It's not pleasant. It happens. What can you do about it? Well, just pull up your socks and get on with your day. But yesterday I spent most of the day on the couch, medicated, and today will be much the same. And yes, I will do my I have a nasal rinse. I'm going to give that a go.
Yep.
That helps, and I'm going to load up on the Benadryl, which is going to knock me the hell out, which I don't care for, but at least I won't be suffering anymore, and that's really the key, is to put an end to the suffering. So it's that time of year, and I looked at the pollen report and it said pollen's low. I'm like, well, then why do I feel like this if that's the case? It just is. Nothing I can do about it other than try and get through the day. So yeah, I'm going to give the old nasal rinse a shot, and that should help with some of the sinus pressure. And the Benadryl and the painkillers didn't do anything for me Saturday evening. Saturday evening, I had the worst migraine I've had in a long time. Not the worst one I've ever had, far from that, but it was in the top 10 for sure. And it was at a point where I was sitting on the couch with Bridget and we were watching TV, and I'm like, I have to go lie down in the dark. I can't. Everything hurt. I was super fidgety, irritable, and it's today is not far off from that. It's just been it was not what you'd call a great weekend.
Oh, darn. I'm so sorry to hear that.
It happens. It happens. You some years are worse than others, and this one seems to be pretty bad. Last year wasn't nearly as bad as this, so I don't know. Maybe it's the 7-year cycle your body goes through,
Mm.
and now I'm back to suffering again. It seems so.
Oh.
I am going to go lie down, and hopefully I'll be able to get a little bit of rest. We'll see. It's a tough time of the year when you don't sleep well because you're not able to sleep.
Yeah.
It's the problem. Yeah, and Miss Shadika says that the female trees actually help absorb the pollen, but without them, it just gets worse. And as it turns out, most of the trees in Ottawa that were planted over the last 75 years are male.
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah, it's not, and we're in a valley, so
Ay.
amalgamation of things all piling on. So I'm gonna take my leave. I'm gonna go lie down, and hopefully I'll feel better later. I had planned to do some other uh, production stuff today, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I'll see all you folks hopefully tomorrow. Hopefully I'll be feeling a little bit better than today. And until then, take your medication and get some rest.
All right. Rest well, my friends. Self-care above all. Okay. Allergy season. Jeez. I'm grateful I do not have environmental allergies that I know of. I know I have some because I went to Tampa once and I got there and I was feeling fine. And like a couple of minutes after getting there, I'm like all snuffed up like crazy. And I was like that for the entire time. And I couldn't understand it. I'm sitting there and it's like, well, I don't have a cold. Why am I so just clogged up? And then I was there for like for two days, weekend, and then we left. And about like half hour after I left, I was fine. So I'm guessing there must be something there in that region, environmental, that wasn't doing me all that well. Uh, Other allergies, pretty much everything I put in my mouth. Uh, so thank goodness I don't have the other. I think it compensated the other way. But yeah, uh, anybody I've ever talked to about those say that environmental allergies can be hell, and this is uh, this is not the season. As you know, if you've been watching the show, Mr. Grizzly often talks about a meeting he was in where people were showing like pictures of fields of flowers, thinking like, what does this make you think of? Thinking it would make everybody feel like serene and happy. And it's like everyone with allergies. I was like, oh, that's the last place I want to be. So it's like, right. So it's not, it's a tough go. Yeah, I don't envy anyone that way. But as the saying goes, right? Pain is an unavoidable part of life, and suffering is optional. So if you have any means and any luxury to alleviate suffering, do take it. So wishing Mr. Grizzly well, and that means get some cabs. It's just you and me today. So snuggle in close and. Uh, I love spending time with the damn fam. Let's see. Kid Argosi Acres here says prescription Blexten is amazing for allergies. Doesn't knock you out. Okay. Hopefully, Mr. Grizzly will see this later, and he'll be able to ask his medical professional about that. As the commercials say, ask your doctor whether Blexten is right for you. All right, kits and cubs. So uh, a lot happened over the course of the weekend, news-wise, all around the world and stuff. I mean, we're talking about nuclear talks with regard to Iran. It seems that Zelensky and Putin are going to be meeting on Thursday in Istanbul, unless Putin finds a reason, an excuse at the last minute to not come. There are elections in Albania, I believe. There are India, Kashmir. It seems that there is some type of ceasefire that got off to a shaky start, but seems to somewhat be holding. Pope Leo delivered his first blessing from St. Peter's Square on Sunday. Mother's Day happened. Uh, um, let's see what else is there. Is that it? Oh, yes. And Hamas has said that it will release the last American hostage that it has, American Israeli hostage. Um, there's some chatter about there being remains of certain Americans that have yet to be returned as well. But uh, if if that is not the case, let's say, then this would be the last uh, American in any way hostage that would be released, which could uh, give the United States a permission slip to be less involved after that point, should it want to be. Um, but I think there is an issue of some remains that also need to be returned, which then, if that was the case, would not close the book entirely on the Americans. One of the reasons for Americans having a vested interest in being involved. With regard to Pakistan and India, it seems that the United States did get involved somehow, or at least according to the United States, they say they got involved in some way, and taking some credit. This was a bit of a surprise. The ceasefire was a surprise as well, um, but that there was some U.S. involvement was also a surprise because the U.S. had been very, very, very clear on the record, sending very, very clear signals. That's like, well, that's their business, along with that same sort of like mode that they're in, of, like not wanting to be the world's policeman. But then again, Trump really, 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 really wants a Nobel Prize. So it seems that that did not hold. There's lots of stuff going on with that kind of stuff, and hopefully at the end of the show, if we have time to get into some of that, we can. But it's there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now. All of a sudden, uh, at home, it's been a little more relaxed for all intents and purposes. We're having more normalish news days because things have been very, very, very busy for the last while. I mean, since October initially, when New Brunswick started. Well, New Brunswick had the election, so let's say since like September or late August, right? Um, New Brunswick had an election, and then Saskatchewan had an election. BC had an election. The United States had an election. Chrystia Freeland did what she did to Trudeau, which prompted a leadership uh, election among the Liberal Party. And then on the side, there was an Ontario election, a New Brunswick, not New Brunswick, Nova Scotia election that were snap elections. Then the leader of PEI decided he was going to step down. The leader of Newfoundland and Labrador decided that he was going to step down. And then we had our federal election. So that's a lot compacted into a short amount of time. So every news day for that entire period has just been ridiculously busy. So we're getting into a little more normalish after a while, for which I'm very grateful. I'll have to say. But uh, there is still very important stuff because we're at a moment of major transition. So all that has happened. Before we get into the meat of the stuff, of course, we have a couple of small things. Of course, we like to take a look uh, at our national pastime here, hockey, because the Stanley Cup playoffs are on. And it was a bit of a rougher week for the weekend for the Canadian teams, unfortunately. So the Toronto Maple Leafs and Florida Panthers are now tied at 2, with the Panthers taking the next 2. The Dallas Stars won their next 2 matches, so they're ahead of the Winnipeg Jets 2-1 in their series. And the Edmonton Oilers do have a 2-1 lead over the Vegas Golden Knights, who did manage to win a match over the course of the weekend. The Winnipeg Jets being down 2-1 is particularly hard to swallow for those who watched the match because the Dallas Stars scored with 0.4 seconds left. 0.4 seconds left to win. Could have gone to overtime, but it didn't. So that's how it became 2-1. It was a bit of a heartbreaker if you were watching that one. However, if you didn't get overtime there, Kits and Cubs, if you're following the PWHL, the quest for the Calder Memorial Trophy has started, which is the championship, the equivalent of the Stanley Cup for the PWHL. And in the series featuring the Ottawa Charge versus the Montréal Victoire, there was a match yesterday afternoon that started at around 2 p.m. and was still going on at around 7 p.m. Kits and Cubs. It was the second longest match in Montreal playoff history. The longest one happened in 1936, I believe. If I remember correctly what they said on TV, it was against the St. Louis Blues. And I believe that match had gone into the sixth overtime before it was won by the incredible score of 1-0. So basically, they watched 3 periods, then a whole other match of 3 periods, then a whole other match of 3 periods for 1 goal back then. It was probably the most tantric playoff game ever. That's a long wait for a payoff. But in this case here with the PWHL match, it went into the 4th overtime. Kits and Cubs. 4 overtimes for a 3-2 victory for the Montréal Victoire, which is their first ever playoff victory, I believe, in 5 attempts, 5 matches. So yeah, it was a really exciting game, but you could see at the end a little bit there, like, like this is like they're the skating, and it's sort of like they're giving it everything they've got, but there's not a lot left in the tank. But yeah, it was a really great match, and goals. The final goal at the end went to Dubois, Catherine Dubois from the Montréal Victoire. I think it was more than halfway through, if I remember correctly, the 4th overtime period. So at 15:33 of the overtime period. So I have no idea what these players are going to have in their legs for the next match that they have to play. And the only reason I am saying this is over the course of the weekend, I played some tennis, and it's still relatively early in the season. So this was maybe my 4th time out on the court to play a match. But all the previous matches I've been playing, we've just been playing 1 set to 6, and that's it. So at our club, the rule is usually we play to 8. And I play someone on Friday with whom I'm very, very close to in ability. So we usually have these very long matches where we're like throwing each other all around the court, and usually, we usually win by hair or that kind of stuff. So we played a match, and for some reason he just blew me out of the water. Because he won 8-3, and we had like, said, well, that went a lot faster than I thought it would. And I said, do you still have time? He said, yeah. So do you want to play another one? So we did play another one. And then that one, we had one of our regular ones. So we got to 8-8 and went to a tiebreaker, and I lost 10-8. So it went as long as it possibly could, right? Um, and in that one, I was really focusing on keeping the intensity up. So serving as hard as I can and hitting as hard as I can, throughout it. And I didn't think I could do that for a full match because this is relatively new to me. Well, it turns out I could do it for a full match and I could do it after having played a full match already. So it's like, okay, I've got more in the tank than I thought I could. But the next day, because I'd never played that hard in my entire life, and it's still new in the season, so I'm not really warmed up. I don't have much miles on me this season. Um, I was stiff as can be, and I was so sore. The next day, we were like out at Costco doing some shopping, and I was like on my feet there for about like 35 minutes, and it's like, this is what it said, I need to sit down now. I don't think my hips can hold me up anymore. So these players played 4 periods of overtime. So they basically played 2 full matches and a little bit. And they need to then go back on the ice again very soon. And my guess would be probably tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken here. Yeah, tomorrow at 7. And sometimes the day after is bad, but 2 days after is really terrible. Like for all those of us who take on the New Year's resolution that after New Year's we're going to go to the gym and we work out the first day and the next day we go, no, that's not so bad. And then the day after that, it's like, oh my God, what did I do to myself? So it's going to be interesting to see if the players have any legs in them. The goaltender, I think, for the Victoire, Anne-Marie Desbiens, I believe her name is, handled over 60 shots on goal during that period, which was, I think, the most shots on goal in a PWHL match ever. This was the longest game in PWHL history. But if you were watching it, it was really, really worth it. I don't know if any of you kits here in the chat did watch it. So I'm looking here to see. I don't see anything right here in the chat at the moment. But yeah, it was an absolute great game. History was made. I can't wait to see what's happening next. I got some Mother Nature's helping me with some light here, shining on my face here. All right. What else do we have here before we get into the meat of it? Oh, also, yes, the World Hockey Championships are taking place, and Canada still unbeaten, having won its match against Latvia over the course of the weekend. The next match is against France on Tuesday, and Team Canada is seeking its 29th gold medal there. Over the course of the weekend, Kits and Cubs, if you've been paying attention to the election and that kind of stuff, Elections Canada did its initial vote count on the night of the election, and then they do the verification phase where they go over to make sure that when people called in the results, that the person that heard the results heard the right thing. And then when they did the data entry, that there wasn't a fat finger thing, that all the data was right, and that the results were validated. And when that happened, there were cases where some things might have needed a judicial recount. Now, a judicial recount is automatic for any election, any riding in which the difference between the first and second place finisher is fewer than 0.01% of the total vote cast in the election. And in that case, there were 3 ridings that needed to go to judicial recount automatic, that there was no need to contest it. It just happens. And there was one more electoral district. I believe it is Windsor Tecumseh Lakeshore, where the difference was 77 votes, which was just outside the 0.01%. But the Liberal candidate in that riding went to court to petition for a recount, and that was granted. So that was added to the list. So there are 3 judicial recounts. And of course, there was a judicial recount in Terrebonne to be taking place, which was underway over the course of the weekend. And the results of that one did come in. And the results of that one yielded some good news for the Liberals. So, Kits and Cubs, it would appear that when we say every vote counts. It's not just something that people say. Every vote literally does count. And we will show you this right now, kids and cubs, because this was the result. And I want to make it very clear here when I'm doing this. Let's see, does that do that? Oh, great, perfect. Oh, that's even better. I just learned a new thing. Okay, Terrebonne. Results as certified by a judge. Okay, this happens in front of a judge. It's a judicial recount. A judge is there looking at everything happening. Tatiana Auguste of the Liberal Party, 23,352. Nathalie Saint-Clair Desgagnés of the Bloc Québécois, 23,351. And if you are following, that's literally one vote. One vote. That's all. Your vote does make a difference. We are literally seeing an example of it. One vote. It's absolutely, listen, this is an election in which we're literally seeing everything here, which is kind of interesting. So as of now, kids and cubs, that would mean that the party standings, whoops, I don't know why that is showing instead of what it is that I want to show, because that is the notes for the show. And now Restream is asking me if I want to leave the site, and I definitely do not want to leave the site. I do not know what's going on here. That's very, very weird. Okay, let's try that. This is what I wanted to show you, kids and cubs. So right now, the standings are at 170 for the Liberals, 144 for the Conservatives, 22 for the Bloc Québécois, 7 for the NDP, and 1 for the Green. So the 22 for the Bloc Québécois is one fewer again. 170 for the Liberals, if you are paying attention, is 2 away from the majority. But also, now there are 3 more recounts. So Liberals won't do anything yet. They will wait for the results of everything. But that's 2 away from the majority. But it is also, kids and cubs, it is also 1 away from something else. Like, let's say, for example, the Liberals decide to put an order out there that no Liberal should run for the speakership of the House, right? We have 343. The speaker doesn't vote. So 343 minus 1 is 342. 342 divided by 2 is 171. So you could have a parliament where you don't have a Liberal speaker, right? So they keep all of their votes. And then on the opposite, well, non-Liberal parties, this, you have 171. If one of, well, there can only be one. If Windsor Tecumseh flips and that gives them the 171, then all of a sudden you have 171 to 171 if every party that's not Liberal. Now, you would assume that the Liberals would reach out to the NDP and the Bloc and whatnot to get some votes, and that wouldn't happen. But let's say you had a vote that was 171 to 171. By convention, by parliamentary convention, the rule is that the Speaker votes for debate to continue and therefore would vote in favor of the government. That is the parliamentary convention. And it has happened once in Canadian history, back in 2005. I believe, if I am not mistaken, it was a vote about same-sex marriage. if I'm not mistaken. But yes, and I believe the vote would have been, if my recollection is correct about the instance, it would have been Speaker Peter Milliken that would have broken that tie at the time. Going to try and see if I can find out a little bit more about that. No, not right now. Can't see it. There is an article, but it is behind paywall. Um, so yes, 2005. Let's see. There we go. On this day in 2005, former Speaker. So this is, I believe it would be May 19th, 2020, if I am not mistaken. And yeah, on this day, no, so not, sorry, mi- scratch that. This post is dated May 19th, 2020. So, but it says on this day. So I'm guessing it's May 19th here. On May 19th, 2005, former Speaker of the House of Commons Peter Milliken was called on to break a 152 to 152 tie vote. It was the first time in Canadian history that the Speaker had to break a tie on a non-confidence motion. On the second reading of the Canadian Budget Amendment C-45, Milliken voted with the government in order to continue parliamentary debate. So sorry, see, I was mistaken. It was not something on same-sex marriage. There was one of those. There was a vote on same-sex marriage that looked like it was going to be very close to a tie, and that would have been another time. But yes, it was on the budget. So now, of course, Peter Milliken in 2005 was of the same party as the government. So one could say, well, it's only natural that he would have done that. But it is convention. It is convention, absolutely, that the speaker would vote to continue to keep debate alive, which translates to voting for the government in non-confidence situations as it keeps parliaments afloat. Um, there are some NDP MPs that the Liberals are trying to recruit to jump ship, right? But if the Liberals can gain one seat, either via flip or by winning Windsor Tecumseh, uh, that's things starts to become interesting. So at 171, things really starts to become really, really interesting. Um, so we are in this period of recounts, and there are some other judicial recounts that we need to take, to which we need to pay attention, and I will share these. So first one is Terra Nova, the Peninsulas. That one is going to a judicial recount. That is automatic, and that one actually starts today. So that count will start today. We probably will be hearing something. Sometimes they can take up to 2 or 3 days. The second one is Milton East, Halton Hills South, which is going to a judicial recount. Now, this one and the one previous is already declared after validation process to be in the Liberal camp. So Liberals could lose these two and go back down to 168 or 169 if they lose one of them. So they absolutely need to hold these two for the 170 to hold and a potential 171 scenario to start. The last one, of course, that we talked about was Windsor Tecumseh Lakeshore, which currently, after validation, has been put in the column of the Conservatives, Kathy Borelli, and Irek Kuzmiachik from the Liberals is in second place there. The lead is only 7 votes. Irek Kuzmiachik did apply, as I mentioned, to have this subject to a recount that was granted by a court. So this will go to a judicial recount. This one's not an automatic one, however. It was requested. And given that all the court petitions and everything had to be done and the permission was granted over the weekend, now it needs to be scheduled. So this one will start on Tuesday, the 20th. So again, and let's say it takes 2 or 3 days, and we might have to wait until Thursday or Friday of next week to finally know whether it's 170 or 171 or different, right? This one could stay, like I said, it could go as low as 168 for Liberals and as high as 171 after all of this. And then from that point on, we know what we're dealing with regards to what moves are now open to the Liberals. And there's no reason for the Liberals to make any public plays of the kind until they have all of these results. So that is what is going on there. There is a little bit of something I would like to show you, kids and cubs, because talking about judicial recounts and stuff of the like, there was an interview. There was a news piece about this that was on the National, if I'm not mistaken. And in that, it talks a little bit about what was going on. But there's someone, I wish I'd noted the name in the notes so that I can make this a little more smooth as I'm trying to present it. But there was somebody here explaining what it is about a judicial recount that particularly makes it special, because there have been some attempts, if you have been online, to try to portray the judicial recount as something that really, 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 really needs to be watched, because the Liberals are trying to do something. And if you know about judicial recounts, you know that that's not really how they work. So this piece here that was on the National will talk about the riding having flipped. Some of the information I gave you already with regard to the other recounts that are happening, but the key point here is the civics point about that I bring us for you. The civics point about judicial recounts. All right, kids and cubs, the screen is full there for you, and let's see what they have to say here.
A judicial review for the Quebec riding of Terrebonne has flipped from the Bloc Québécois to the Liberals, and as you heard, by just one vote. The flip pushes the party to just 2 seats short of a majority after the recent federal election. 3 other ridings await their own recounts. Linda will get to that in just a moment, but let's start with what's happening in Terrebonne. How did this all play out?
Yeah, so this is a Quebec suburb of Montreal, this riding. Initially, election night results had the Liberal in the lead in this riding, but during the validation process, that's when Elections Canada goes through all the results to double check them. This riding then flipped to the Bloc by only 44 votes. So then that triggered an automatic judicial recount. We got the results late yesterday. 1 vote made the Liberal candidate the winner here. That is Tatiana Auguste. Let's take a look at the verified by a judge results here. 23,352 votes. The Bloc candidate Nathalie Sinclair Desgagnés received 23,351. So the riding goes to the Liberals. Tatiana Auguste taking to social media to thank volunteers, to thank the people of Terrebonne, thanking also the Bloc candidate as well, and her other opponents in the race there, saying that the work begins now. Also, we heard from Sachit Mehra, the Liberal Party president, who posted these images congratulating Auguste on her victory, saying, as we've been saying, every vote counts. And I guess if you ever thought that, maybe I'm not going to vote, maybe it doesn't matter, well, this certainly throws that out the window. The Liberal seat count goes from 169 to 170 now. Still, we're inching closer to that majority benchmark, but not quite there yet. Still 2 seats away. The Bloc seat count now falls to 22.
And the counting continues because the recount, not just in Terrebonne, but also other ridings, as we mentioned.
3 more where there are judicial recounts underway or getting underway. 2 in Ontario, 1 in Newfoundland and Labrador. One that was announced on Friday, Milton East, Halton Hills South. The Conservative Parm Gill initially was thought to be the winner here, but that flipped to the Liberal, Christina Tesser-Dirksen, after the validation process. Only 29 votes between them. Again, an automatic recount will be underway here. Windsor-Tecumseh Lakeshore is the other one. Conservative Kathy Borelli had a lead of 77 votes. Now, this is not an automatic recount. The Liberals requested this, saying that more than a dozen scrutineers for their campaign saw valid ballots being discarded or rejected here. And then when we look to Newfoundland and Labrador, the third riding where there's a recount, Terra Nova, the Peninsula's former CBC journalist Anthony Germain had only 12 votes more than the Conservative Jonathan Rowe. So an automatic judicial recount begins in this riding tomorrow. The results here could put the Liberals closer to majority territory. So certainly the Liberals watching these recounts closely, the Conservatives as well hoping to widen that margin and get them further away from a majority. But even if all three recounts result in Liberal victories here, two of them are essentially holds, so then they still are 1 seat short of the 172 needed for a majority.
Thanks so much for this, Linda.
You're welcome.
Okay, Kids and Cubs, it seems that unfortunately I noted the wrong thing. That one did not contain the segment with the official that was explaining everything about the recount. So darn. I'll have to look at that again. I'm so sorry, Kids and Cubs. I do not know why the copy and paste must not have worked correctly. I must have taken the wrong one. However, here, you know what? I know what I will do. Because since I can't find the clip, but I do have you, I will just find out. Go to it and read to you what it is that it says right here from the Elections Canada website. So when they're asked about a judicial recount, it says after the polls close on election night, the ballots from each polling division in each electoral district are counted by an election officer assigned to the polling station in the presence of another election officer, and any candidates or their representatives who are present, or if no candidates or representatives are present, at least 2 electors. The election office who counts the votes prepares a statement of the vote. Special ballots are counted at the office of the returning officer in each electoral district by teams of election officers and by special ballot officers at Elections Canada's distribution center in Ottawa. A summary of the ballot counting procedures, and then it tells you where you can find stuff like that. They're talking about a judicial recount. It's a formal means of verifying the count of the votes cast for an electoral district. It is presided over by a judge of a superior court who sits in the electoral district where the election results are validated. Very important. The recount may be conducted by adding the number of votes reported in the statements of vote or by counting the ballots. As mentioned in section 1.1 above, what I just read. What I meant as mentioned in a section above, because I'm reading from an official document here. There are 2 types of recounts, automatic and on application of an elector. So on application of an elector is the one that happens with in Windsor-Tecumseh Lakeshore. A judicial recount is conducted by a judge, but it is important to note that the judge is acting as a persona designata under the Act. This can be seen, for example, from the fact that the Act specifically grants the judge some powers that would be inherent if they were working in a traditional judicial capacity, such as the power to summon witnesses and require the giving of evidence on oath with, quote, the same power that is vested in any court of record. The judge has the powers granted under the Act, but the Act recognizes that the formality of a court process may be curtailed in service of the goal of a speedy and final resolution of the election. So there you go. Very, very important to know that all of this does happen in the presence of a judge, and the judge does have powers, for example, to get evidence and to have people testify under oath if there's anything that would happen. Of course, there's and then there's all the processes, like, for example, so there could be the judicial doesn't account. The judicial recount doesn't happen like just one person alone in a room counting the votes, right? So people who are entitled to attend the recount, the judge, the returning officer, the staff that the returning officer asks to assist in the recount teams, each consisting of a handler, a recorder, and 1 representative appointed by each candidate who wishes to be represented on the recount team. So each candidate can send a representative there to be on the team. Each candidate, so the candidate can be there themselves, up to 2 representatives per candidate who are not members of a recount team, 1 legal counsel per candidate, legal counsel for the chief electoral officer, and any other person whom the judge allows to observe the recount, including the media. All right? It is not going to be rigged. Right? So just wanted to put that information out there because there are some attempts being done to do that. I think the conservatives had this letter out that I believe Stockwell Day, if I'm not mistaken, was very much promoting. And I do not understand what it is with this conservative movement, like Stockwell Day and Preston Manning and like all and Jason Kenney, like all rejected, like Samley and all of them thinking that this is their moment to resurface again to try and I don't know what it is really they are trying to do here. But you know, this is how would I put it? When you are starting to try to tell Canadians, particularly when Elections Canada really is like among the premier independent electoral bodies in the world. So, I mean, you really have to be wanting to go out of your way to really undermine the faith that Canadians have in their electoral system. And the people doing this know, like really know, and should be reasonably expected to know that what they are saying is not true in any way, shape, or form. This is very, very insidious rhetoric. It's stochastic rhetoric as far as I'm concerned. Because to try to get people to not have faith in their own elections results, particularly when they have a system that is this good, is just such a breach of public trust, in my opinion, that you know how I feel about this. I believe that these types of things should be crimes to try to do this type of stuff. But they're fundraising off it already. They're fundraising off the recounts. They're trying to create the impression that that this is an opportunity for things to go wrong. So there's this thing going around. It says from the Conservatives, right now recounts are underway in key ridings across the country. I'm not sure why they are key ridings in specific. They're going on in ridings. The Liberals are working to flip just enough seats to edge closer to a majority. You can't work to flip seats during a judicial recount, right? Yes, Liberals might be working to flip some seats by talking to elected MPs like this, but they're not trying to flip seats during a recount. So by mentioning these two things, the first sentence, second sentence, right? Oh, first premise, recounts are underway in key ridings across the country. Okay, you can debate whether or not they're key ridings, but recounts are underway. Premise number one. Premise number two, the Liberals are working to flip just enough seats to edge closer to a majority. Yes, they are, by negotiating and making deals and stuff like that. But it has nothing to do with recounts. We can't let that happen. They're letting you complete the work here, right? Suggesting that the Liberals are trying to do something funny with the recounts. Quote, we're sending our top political operatives to oversee every step of the process and ensure it's done right, as you are allowed to by law. Right? This isn't like some emergency mobilization thing. Because, I mean, technically, Elections Canada is so reliable, you don't really have to send anyone to ensure it's done right. This is Elections Canada we're talking about, right? But you should, because of trust but verify. But I mean, you shouldn't be framing it as like we're dispatching people. Yes. We're sending our top political operatives to oversee every step of the process and ensure it's done right. But recounts like these don't come cheap. Legal support, logistics, and boots on the ground, it all adds up. If we don't act fast, we risk losing the gains we made on election night. No. No. This is no. Legal support, logistics, boots on the ground, it all adds up. Yeah, but it's the same for every party that wants to participate in that. I mean, and judicial recounts are a possibility and they're not rare. There's pretty much some in every election. So, I mean, this is a cost that you budget for. I mean, there's no reason for an emergency appeal. It's not like this unexpected new cost that you didn't see coming. It's, oh my God, you need to save us. And then if we don't act fast, we risk losing the gains we made on election night. What gains? What gains are you going to lose? The seats that have already been counted and validated that don't need to go to a judicial recount are yours. They're in your column. You're not going to lose them. None of these recounts are going to take them away from you. The one seat, Windsor-Tecumseh, it's part of a judicial recount, so it's not a gain yet for you. So what gain do you risk losing on election night if you don't act fast? There's nothing. And I'm just in like the fifth line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the seventh line of this thing. And there's so much conflation and bullshit. If we don't act fast, we risk losing the gains we made on election night. We're ramping up our recount efforts. Every dollar fuels the fight. What fight? You stand there and you observe. If there's something you say, well, this one count. Oh, no, this ballot shouldn't count. You agree like this. You disagree like this. You discuss it over there. It gets ruled in. It gets ruled out. The judge gets the final say. Boom. What fight? What fight? It's a process. Chip in now to defend every vote. We won 25 new seats. We gained 2.3 million more votes. We built a movement that's ready to win. Okay, irrelevant. You also helped the Liberals elect many new seats. You also helped the Liberals gain even more votes, and you built another movement that just didn't want to have a Prime Minister Polyev that is not only ready to win, but did win. You also did that. Now we have a real shot at sending even more Canada First conservative voices to the House of Commons. No, you don't. You don't. You don't have any more of a shot than you did before you sent that letter. It's going to a recount. The votes are already cast. There's nothing nobody can do. You don't have a shot at anything. Millions of voters chose the Conservative Party, and we're doing everything we can to make sure that their choice is respected. The judge is doing that. Not you. Make a secure donation right now to support our recount fight. CPC HQ. P.S. The Liberals are fighting hard to tip the scales. Help us hold the line. Hold the line? Gee, wonder what that refers to. In these critical recounts, chip in now. Why is that a P.S.? That's literally what the entire letter said. P.S. means, oh, and I forgot. This is what they sent out. So we had that video of Pierre saying, like, I need to grow and I need to learn. And they're doing this. They're doing this. Does this look like growing and learning? Does that sound like growing and learning? They're trying to scare their voters into thinking that there's something that the Liberals could be doing during a judicial recount in front of a judge to flip seats and make the Conservatives lose the gains, and that this takes so much money that they need to appeal to the public to open up their wallets during an affordability crisis, as people are losing their jobs because of tariffs. Some people are maybe scared. We know you might need that money for yourself, but the liberals are liberals are coming to get us, so give us money. And that's pretty much today's conservative movement for you right there, isn't it, kids? They will lie to you about what the law allows and doesn't allow, just to scare you enough to open your wallet and give to them instead of to your own family. The grift is always on. The grift is always on. And it's the same thing going on in Alberta with Danielle Smith. She is frightening people into believing that Ottawa is a bigger threat to Alberta than Trump could possibly ever be, and that she absolutely needs to fight them and throw everything at them. It's like, sorry, too busy to give you health care right now because I got to fight Ottawa because Ottawa's coming to get you. Give me money. The grift is always, always on. All right. However, recounts, one seat going to the Liberal column. Good news for Mark Carney. Conservatives going out there trying to pretend that recounts are rigged, while bad news for all of Canada and extremely toxic, more pumping of that political rhetorical fentanyl into the bloodstream of society. It doesn't work with their "I can change" narrative. Creates some inconsistency that helps Liberals. Other announcements that have been coming up is Mark Carney keeps on making some news, announced that cabinet will be unveiled tomorrow, May 13th. It is going to be a smaller cabinet, not as big as the 37 that Prime Minister Trudeau had. Some people looking around 30, not as small as the 23, the sort of like a sort of business cabinet with which Prime Minister Carney, well, candidate Carney at the time, went into the election. So they're looking at a few more. He's got obviously some questions about how many old faces, how many new faces, because conservatives keep on saying it's the same government, the same policies, and the same ministers and the same stuff, right? Odds are that the 3 or 4 key ministers that he went into battle with during the election, Mélanie Joly, François-Philippe Champagne, Dominique Leblanc, and David McGuinty, will probably stay in cabinet, if not all in their current positions. There is some chatter about whether or not François-Philippe Champagne will stay in finance. Some people say that he could go. Some people, because there are other people, financial backgrounds in there. A lot of people are saying, but it'd probably be a good idea to keep him in, because when Justin Trudeau brought in a finance minister that didn't have any political experience, Bill Morneau, things didn't go very well. Now you do have Carlos Letao that does have political experience, at least at the provincial level, right? Because he was finance minister in Quebec under Philippe Couillard, so it could be him. François-Philippe Champagne is very much of a networker, an energizer bunny, so he might do better in might be more valuable in another portfolio than in finance. But then again, there's a budget to prepare very soon. And do you want to switch horses at finance about a month before you present a budget, assuming budget would be presented in the first few weeks of June, let's say before Father's Day, after the meeting with the First Minister in Saskatchewan, but before the 15th, somewhere in there. Because from the 15th to the 17th, right, there's the big G7 meeting in Kananaskis as well, and we're hosting that. So budget might come in between there. So there's some discussions about whether those four will be, whether they'll all stay uh, in the same position. I would probably guess that of the four, well, Dominique Leblanc and Mélanie Joly are probably safest. Dominique Leblanc is probably the safest of all in his position because it's also intergovernmental affairs, and we have all the interprovincial trade barrier stuff that Mark Carney wants to remove by July 1st. And Dominique Leblanc is very well respected and has a good relationship with pretty much all of the premiers, so no need to fix what's broken there. David McKenty at Border Security might be somebody who stays there. Public safety, border security. Mélanie Joly technically could be changeable, but there doesn't seem to be any pressing need. Again, François-Philippe Champagne could be changeable. Doesn't seem to be a pressing need, especially since there's a budget coming. So those four could end up staying in place. It seems that Mark Carney is going to have a different type of cabinet, even though there might be, let's say, 30 members. Looks like there's going to be an inner circle and then sort of like a lower circle that would be more parliamentary, more ministers of state. Sorry, not parliamentary secretaries, but ministers of state. So the ministers would be a little tiered. So the ministers of state would have a little less power, a little less influence. It seems that he is going to maintain gender parity as well with regard to the cabinet. So again, we'll see. Yeah, he definitely has a lot of opportunity to put his own stamp on things. Don Davies, who's the interim leader of the NDP, you may have heard over the weekend, is appealing for party status with regard to help for the Liberals. He's on the record as saying, quote, "We're going to work constructively and see what we can arrange." I don't think that there's going to be any need for a supply and confidence agreement. Mark Carney, first of all, seemed to have ruled it out pretty quickly in that press conference. He was asked, he said no, and then somebody asked, well, why not? He said, well, why? So, I mean, he clearly doesn't see the need. I'm not too sure that the NDP would see that in their best interest anyway. The NDP, as we mentioned, does have to pick a new leader and is a little more behind because it did not get a lot of the refunds from Elections Canada. I believe in previous shows I had mentioned that it was 5%, but it turns out it's 10%. If you get 10% of the vote in an electoral district, Elections Canada will refund 60% of your election fees. So for the NDP in all of the electoral districts in which they ran, I think they didn't cross the threshold. I think in like greater than 220 of them or something of the sort. So I mean that's a lot of them. It really is a lot of them. So that's all money that they had hoped would be coming back and is not, and that they have to rebuild and regenerate at some point. So the NDP does have a lot of work to do in terms of rebuilding itself, especially for next election, especially if it would be in 2 years. That's a very short timeline. So I don't think that the Liberals are going to have a lot to fear from the NDP. But of course, there's always that and maintaining face, right? If you want to have a good relationship with them, yes, the Liberals are in a position, I guess, where they could, have their foot on the neck of the NDP and then crush down and then try to crush them for good. Or, could be a little magnanimous. And, there's no reason. There is no reason really to grant NDP official party status because it's not the only official party. It's not the only party in the House that could hold the balance of power. The NDP keeps on saying we hold the balance of power as if they are the only ones, but the Bloc does as well, right? So there's no real need. There's no obligation. There's no anything whatsoever. Mark Carney could just turn around and say, well, so sad elections have consequences. And, well, I know you're in a leadership position. You're not going to provoke an election anyway. So I know you got your vote. So thank you. But that would be a mistake similar to what Pierre Poilievre did by not reaching out to Doug Ford and François Legault and Tim Houston and telling certain people, well, you're not a real conservative, so we don't need you. Probably would go a long way with the remaining caucus of the NDP if the Liberals did not object within their position on the Board of Eternal Economy to the NDP getting official status. It certainly would make members of the party way more inclined for discussions to be actually genuinely more positive rather than we're doing this because we have to. We don't really have a choice, right? And that could be really useful 2 years from now or anywhere along the line. That would be strategic if one is thinking long term, if one is hoping to flip an NDP MP to the Liberals to make it 172 or 173 or something somewhere along the line, right? Or to run for Speaker, to be the non-Liberal Party candidate for Speaker that the Liberals could vote for. There's no reason, there's no advantage to the Liberals to say no to granting that. There could be some advantage in saying yes down the line. So, and if Mr. Carney's already on the record saying he's going to play it straight, no games. So this could be in line with that, right? Could be another feather in the cap that proves that he's really going to be the no games Prime Minister. It's not just something he said. So we can look for that. There could be some really interesting things coming out of that. So that's some good news that Mr. Carney received. Mr. Carney received another little bit of good news, kids and cubs, following his meeting with Donald Trump. There was a moment in that meeting where Donald Trump was asked if there was anything that Mark Carney could say during this meeting that would allow the tariffs to be removed. And the answer seemed to be pretty much from Trump that there was. There just was nothing at all that could be done. Like I think he said no, and it's something like no, it's just the way it is, right? And on that day, that was indeed true. That was indeed true. But that was true for that meeting. Then there's what's going forward. So what Trump wants and what we want, Trump wants a deal. We want to be negotiating that deal without a gun to our heads, right? The tariffs that are in place now are being perceived as a gun to the head. And Mark Carney would like to have them lifted. Now, he didn't get that immediately after this meeting, and President Trump seemed to very clearly indicate that that was off the table. So I'm going to play this moment for you here again, kids and cubs, just to refresh your memory a little bit. Please always pay attention to Prime Minister Carney's body language here in these types of exchanges as well. All right, just making sure you see everything. That's good. All right, let's play this a little bit here.
Your meetings with him today get you to lift tariffs on Canada?
No.
Why not?
Just the way it is.
What's your first state?
Yeah.
If Canadians don't want it, would you respect that?
Sure, I would. But this is not necessarily a one-day deal. This is over a period of time. They have to make that decision. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, if I may. If respectfully, Canadians' view on this is not going to change on the 51st day. Secondly, we are the largest client of the United States in the totality of all the goods. So we are the largest client of the United States. We have a tremendous auto sector between the two of us, and the changes that made have been helpful. 50% of a car that comes from Canada is American. That's not like anywhere else in the world. And to your question about is there one thing? No, this is a bigger discussion. There are much bigger forces involved. And this will take some time and some discussions. And that's why we're here, to have those discussions. And that is represented by who's sitting around the table.
See, the conflict is, and this is very friendly. We're not. This is not going to be like we had another little blow up with somebody else. That was a much different. This is a very friendly conversation. But we want to make our own cars. We don't really want cars from Canada, and we put tariffs on cars from Canada. And at a certain point, it won't make economic sense for Canada to build those cars.
All right. So, and after that, he goes in like, how he doesn't need us and now doesn't want us, even though he wants our friendship and all that kind of stuff. That was a very definitive no. Right? Just the way it is. Well, over the course of the weekend, well, not even over the course of the weekend, like pretty much soon after that meeting, but would be a day or two after, it might even be sooner than that, we started hearing some rumblings that the new U.S. ambassador to Canada, because that is something else that happened, it got mentioned a little bit, but it didn't get a lot of play, is that recently the United States named a new ambassador to Canada. And the one thing we can say that we've been lucky with regard to the Trump administration, the first time and second time, this time around, is that at least the ambassadors that they've appointed to Canada have actually been on April 9th. Peter Hoekstra, he assumed his duties on April 29th, but on April 9th, he was confirmed by the U.S. Senate. So he succeeds David Cohen, who held the position until January 18th, 2025. Pete Hoekstra is someone who has been served in the United States Congress for 18 years, represented Michigan's 2nd Congressional District from 1993 to 2011, so from a border state, has lots of experience dealing with Canada, including his service as a chairman of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence from June 2004 to 2007. He is quoted as stating on April 9th when he was confirmed, "I am deeply appreciative to President Trump and the United States, deeply appreciative to President Trump and the U.S. Senate for their trust and confidence in me. I look forward to beginning my work in Canada and once again serving the people of the United States of America at this important time in the U.S.-Canada relationship. Canada is our most valuable trading partner, our largest source of foreign investment, and our largest source of energy imports. We share the longest border in the world, more than 5,500 miles, fostering long-standing friendships between the American and Canadian people. As ambassador to Canada, I will work with the Canadian government to review and strengthen our strong trading partnership, secure our borders, confront the deadly threat of fentanyl to our citizens, and build our national security cooperation." So, this gentleman, experience, comes very well credentialed, seems to be serious, granted an interview, and I hate to say that this is good work from this particular establishment, but you have to give credit when credit is due. And I will actually be showing you something from the National Post, kids and cubs. I know. But Stephanie Taylor, who's the parliamentary reporter for the National Post, managed to score an interview with the U.S. Ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra, 3 days ago. And during this interview, the ambassador made some news that would suggest that Mr. Carney may have been a little more successful than everybody's letting on, but that it might be time released or time delayed success. So without any further ado, kids and cubs, a little bit of a conversation with the new U.S. Ambassador to Canada, Peter Hoekstra. Make sure everything's set up. Here we go.
Taylor, reporter at the National Post Ottawa Bureau. I'm joined by U.S. Ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra. Thank you so much for joining us.
It is great to be with you. Thank you.
You come to Ottawa after a pretty historic meeting earlier this week in Washington between your president and our prime minister. Canada is describing this meeting as a restart of the relationship. How would you evaluate the meeting, and would you agree with that assessment?
I thought it was a great meeting. Reaffirming the friendship between the United States and Canada, but a restart or a reset? No way. I spent 18 years in Congress. I was chairman of the Intelligence Committee. I'm well aware, also coming from Michigan, of the strong economic relationship. From the Intelligence Committee, I well aware of the Five Eyes relationship and those types of things. The friendships across the border. I have family that lives in Canada. So you put that all together and say the foundation is phenomenal. We are great friends. We have been great friends for such a long period of time. You're not going to change those personal relationships. You're not going to change those economic relationships. National security they were never in jeopardy. Is it a little bit of a, okay, let's get over what's happened the last 90 days? Yeah, we did that. Okay, but the relationship from my perspective, and I think from the president's perspective, was never in jeopardy.
It does feel like that friendship is going through a little bit of rocky times on the economic front. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, the president has promised the American people in the election. He promised that, there would be a reset on some things, not specifically with Canada, but in our economic relationships with people all around the world. The president campaigned and said in a lot of areas, he strongly believes that America has been taken advantage of, that the trading relationships haven't been fair. So he took a global approach. And when you take a global approach, yes, Canada falls within that. Some of the folks have not liked that approach, but it is what the president campaigned on, and he's doing exactly what he said he was going to do.
So what can Canada do, or what do you think needs to happen for the U.S. to lift its tariffs on Canada?
Well, we announced, the president is in the process of announcing today a significant trade agreement, one that will happen within the first 110 days of the president being in office under his leadership. We're announcing an agreement today with the UK. I think this will kind of be a template for how we go around the world. I haven't seen the details of it yet, but from the preliminary indications it covers automobiles. I think we've got some kind of automobile relationships between the U.S. and Canada. It's going to cover aluminum and steel. Now, check the box, all right? That's something that we have an economic relationship with Canada. It's going to talk about, supposedly it covers the digital services tax. Check the box. That's one of the things that we in America are interested in taking a look at and discussing with Canada because of the services tax that Canada will be implementing in, I think, at the end of June. What do Canada and America need to do? Do what we've done for a long time. Talk. And I think what you saw on Tuesday with the president and the prime minister is they talked, they listened. I mean, the scrum in the Oval Office, okay, with the media hollering at the president and at the prime minister questions. But, when you got into the luncheon, for an hour and a half, you had the president and the prime minister doing what they need to do. They talked, they showed each other a tremendous amount of respect, and most importantly, they listened to each other. Okay, I think the president clearly listened to what the prime minister had to say, and the prime minister clearly listened to what the president had to say. They got a feel for who each one was, They created as much as you can in 2 hours, the beginning of a relationship that I think can be positive, that will go after tariffs. And as the president said, is there any one thing that the prime minister can say today? It's like, no. Is there an agreement that can be had that increases prosperity, safety, and security for both countries? Absolutely. Yeah.
So this template, the trade deal the president is announcing today with the UK, that can be a template for Canada?
We'll have to see the specifics, right? We haven't seen the specifics. All we know is they're covering the same issues.
Right. How far, judging from what you saw on Tuesday in your discussions, how far do you think Canada and the US is from striking some kind of a trade deal?
Okay, so right here, I'm going to stop just for a little tiny bit here. And so far, boilerplate stuff, really. I see the comments here in the chat, right? We did talk, we made a deal, didn't matter. It's Kit Crystal saying that. Kit Jillian, next he will extol the virtues of a pissing contest. Right? These are all things. And as Kit PNC bio here actually does point out here, I don't understand how the UK deal is a deal. There were 10% tariffs on UK imports at the beginning, and there are 10% UK imports at the end. Right? Exactly. It's not really, they're not really a deal. And again, nothing's negotiated. It's still concepts of a deal. You're going to hear a little bit, but it's concepts of a plan, right? But here, boilerplate stuff, but, seems positive. Again, a person that seems to know what they're talking about. Again, the comment, again, in the chat, which is true, right? No matter what all of these people say, how much of a line do they really have into Donald Trump? Who knows? And Donald Trump, even if they did, Donald Trump can flip his mind, over a cheeseburger because he didn't like the pickles in them today, right? So, right. So, but here it still seems to be positive, right? The U.S. feed and perspective of the meeting and what happened afterwards seems to be good. Now, here's where Prime Minister Carney may have gotten a little bit of some additional good news or a gift. Let's listen in.
In this vein that would deal with some of these issues.
Yeah, taking the president's some of the president's words and also some of the some of the language that came out during the luncheon. Okay, on the 51st state, it takes two to tango. Never say never. Canada's not for sale. Okay, what did we do on Tuesday? We put the 51st state discussion. It's done. Okay. The president clearly acknowledged it takes two to tango. That's behind us. It was never a barrier to discussing these other issues. And so those will be, now begins the framework. I think what happened on Tuesday, getting back to your first question, not a restart, but it allowed us to put behind us some of the last issues, okay? From my standpoint, from the president's standpoint, 51st state's not coming back. The president may bring it up every once in a while, but he recognizes it's not going to happen unless the prime minister engages with the president.
Does the president and his administration understand the effect his comments are having on the relationship with Canada and how Canadians feel when they hear him make that comment, whether they think he's serious or whether they think he's joking, whether they think it's real, whether they think it's wishful thinking? Does he understand the effect those comments have on this relationship in Canadians?
I'm sure he does. The president's a smart guy, okay?
All right, right here. So before that, you got the big bit of news, right? 51st state is over. President may talk about it once in a while because he's got to do a show like this, but he knows it's not going to happen. It's clear. Again, don't know if he was authorized to say that. My guess would be in this case, it is possible. But then again, will Trump remember tomorrow that he said that? He gave authorization for that, right? That's another thing we're wondering. But that it's in the news out there from the U.S. ambassador that it appears to be the position of the United States that any serious talk of 51st state is over, it's done, it's behind us. The president is aware and does know and acknowledges it. That's a win. That's a win. That's a bit of good news that's been said. There might be a little bit more good news yet. So again, you will notice that on the final question, is the president aware? It's like, oh, well, you know, the president's an elected intelligence man. Quick pivot to the flattery because he probably has no clue. And is not confident enough to say, yes, of course, absolutely, the president's aware. So we get to the president is an intelligent man, which is not actually saying yes or no, and gives the required amount of fluffing. Because remember, Trump always needs to be portrayed as some master genius that's playing 7-degree chess, right? So let's see what else he has to say with regard to trade and how much Canada is on the mind of the United States with regard to the urgency of coming to a deal. All right.
But you know, from my perspective, I think the president, that's behind us. Okay, let's start working on the issues that are most important. Let's make sure that we establish a fair, equitable relationship between the U.S. and Canada, and you know the issues that they talked about. They talked about the economic issues. They talked about fentanyl, okay, which is an issue that both of our countries are very concerned about. The possibility, they didn't use these words, but the possibility of if we work together on fentanyl, you know, let's make North America a fentanyl-free zone. Canada and America, we're losing way too many of our Canadian citizens and American citizens each and every year to fentanyl. The president wants to stop it, and I think that he saw with the Prime Minister the indications and some of the actions that Canada has already taken, which the Prime Minister outlined as being very constructive in building that partnership. You know, the Prime Minister brought up a commitment to dealing with some of the military obligations and national security obligations that Canada and the U.S. face. So you know, there's some work to do, but it's not like there's this huge chasm that we have to overcome. I think we can get there relatively quickly, but the president's very busy right now. All right, we got the trade agreement with the UK. His team is flying to Switzerland, I think, either today or the next couple of days to have negotiations and discussions with China. The president is going to the Middle East on Monday for a number of conversations, but those things will work, and you know, it's just a matter of getting into it. We're negotiating with Japan. We're negotiating with India, South Korea, Vietnam. There are at least some press reports saying that significant progress is being made in all of those issues.
I guess my last question for now is how much of it is a priority getting a deal with Canada? I mean, the president has a lot on his plate. He's kind of taken a global approach to this issue of tariffs. So resolving things with Canada, where does that fall on his priority list?
Well, it's a priority, but we just started. In that, you know, you just came out of an election. All right, and so you know there were no discussions going on, but you know the president wasn't stopping. Okay, the president has an agenda. He has secured our southern border. You know, he's working on this massive tax package, which we think will be good for our economy. He's opened up energy, so he's got a very aggressive agenda. But I think, you know, within 8 days of your election, the Prime Minister is in Washington. He's in a meeting with the president, with the vice president, with Rubio, our Secretary of State, with Lutnick, our Secretary of Commerce, who's leading the economic discussions, with Greer, our trade representative, and also with Susie Wiles, who he describes as the most powerful woman in the world. So you know the president had everybody in the room that needed to be there, and I think that you should I would look at that and say, wow, it's clear the president sees Canada as a priority. He didn't take 3 weeks or a month or 2 months to have a meeting with the Prime Minister. It happened before you even have a government that is formed. So it's kind of like, no, I want to get a measure. I think the two leaders wanted to get a measure of each other. They wanted to set a tone and a tenor for their teams to follow, which I thought the tone and the tenor of the meeting was very positive in that it was respectful. The president talked about how much he loved Canada, how he's got friends on both sides of the border. I saw a reciprocation from Mr. Carney. And so, that watching the two interact for 2 hours, I think sent a message to both teams. Time to get to work. Let's get this done.
We'll see what happens next. Thank you for joining,
thank you.
Ambassador, and thank you for watching.
All right, kids and cubs. So, two little bits of news in that section there. Number one, it seems that what we have been doing on fentanyl and on the border has indeed been noticed. And hearing the ambassador say it supports other chatter that we've been hearing out in the news that it looks like if there would be some type of concession of some kind from the United States, it might be on those fentanyl tariffs, on the border-related tariffs, and I am sticking just to sectors. With regard to the deals, as mentioned here, Kit PNC Bio, it seems that the talk is that no matter what, there's going to be like some 10% standard tariffs on everything. But you also remember that 10% didn't apply to us because of NAFTA 2 and CUSMA and all that kind of stuff. So when he announced those ones, we weren't part of it. The deal that he's got with the UK also, what was really interesting is I believe that the UK was excluded from the first set of counter tariffs, and basically the UK negotiated itself into a 10% tariff. There are other things in the deal with regard to cars and whatnot that also did not make automakers in the United States happy, because it seems there's an exception or something like that. Like the first 125,000 cars that are made out of UK to be sold per year to be sold in the United States will be subjected only to that 10% tariff, as opposed to the others. So now American car makers are facing 25% tariffs on parts and aluminum and steel and all that kind of stuff, whereas the first 125,000 cars sent in by the UK are actually tariffed lower than domestically produced cars, which is a little weird. Until someone pointed out, when you think of UK cars, which cars do you think of? It's like Rolls-Royce, Bentley, Aston Martin. Oh yeah. Now that makes sense. Why those cars would be tariffed lower than cars made to the United States, even though he really wants to bring those jobs to the U.S. And then now I understand. What a guy! What a guy! There's always got to read the fine print. Always got to read the fine print. So the first thing being that those have been noticed. So it looks like it is quite possible that there could be an elimination of those tariffs, or at least scaling back of those tariffs to be announced at some point along the way over the next couple of weeks, either in the lead up to Kananaskis or maybe even as an announcement, announceable at Kananaskis. Who knows? But it certainly would be a good sign from the United States if they were to announce that before the G7 meeting. That would definitely, if it was announced before the G7 meeting, it would certainly show that things are definitely improving. If it's announced at the G7 meeting, that could be one of those things where, well, last time I went there, I know how Trudeau treated me, so let's wait to see how they treat me. And if they treat me right, then maybe then I'll have something. So one of those two things. But there seems to be at least some openness in terms of the rhetoric to there being some action on those tariffs and open recognition that the actions that we have taken on the border with regard to fentanyl and undocumented immigration or that type of stuff, asylum, immigration, have been noticed and are appreciated. So that is something that might happen there. And then with regard to the timing, well, yes, we are a priority, but, he wants to do 90 deals with 90 days. And well, we do have NAFTA too. So we're not exactly the priority, which actually kind of helps us because if our strategy here in Canada is to drag our feet a little bit on negotiating that trade deal, to have the pressure of the midterms coming up so that we can squeeze that pressure like we did last time in order to get a better deal for ourselves than we would have otherwise. The fact that we are maybe not on the list of priorities for the 90 deals in 90 days helps with that. So two little gifts there, and also with waiting for the 90 deals in 90 days, as we are mentioning in the show, because as we've mentioned on the show, because deliveries at ports are starting to drop, and empty shelves and more economic impact in terms of job losses and whatnot might start to be seen in the United States as of this week. More time for that pressure to come up and for the President of the United States to be squeezed from the inside, from within the country, to do something on eliminating those tariffs or to reduce the pain will certainly be to our benefit. So all these pieces are, these little tidbits are pieces of good news. Of course, none of it materialized, but pieces of good news that we can, again, if we're microdosing hope and latching on to little signs and planning our strategies, we're getting some signals that the strategy that we are using right now is on the correct path and that there might be external factors that help us somewhere along the way. Keep our fingers crossed for that, kits and cubs. All right. Let's see. What else do I have here? Oh, there's one other point I wanted to point out. One other moment of that discussion between Trump and Carney that I wanted to point out that I'm not sure I brought enough attention to on the day of when we were analyzing the actual press, the actual media availability, because we did go into it rather in depth. But there was a moment that was very, very key that I noted. I didn't talk about it enough, and then I have noticed since then that on the news, every now and then, the moment is captured, like passes by on screen. But the thing that's happening here is nobody stops on it and really talks about it. And I made the same mistake. I'd made a note of it and then got interested in other parts of the discussion and I forgot about it. But there is something that happens in this particular intervention from Mark Carney with the president that shows that Canada is not only in the supplicant position in this negotiation or in these discussions, but actually has a few concerns of its own, a few objectives of its own that it would like to reach. So here we go, kits and cubs. I'm going to play this for you right now. And to me, this was a very, very, very key moment. Sorry, we've got a little glare there, so I'm going to turn this because that must be tough on the eyes. All right. Get some cubs. Whoops. Did I do something wrong here? No, I didn't. Okay, everything's fine. All right, here we go.
United States. Think of us as a super luxury store, a store that has the goods. You're going to come and you're going to pay a price, and we're going to give you a very good price. We're going to make very good deals, and in some cases we'll adjust. But that's where it is. And we've been ripped off by everybody for 50 years. For 50 years. And we're just not going to do that anymore. We can't do that. And we can't let any country do that to us. We're just not going to do it anymore.
Okay, so he's talking about the United States being ripped off, and remember, this is something that he said about Canada specifically as well, right? That among all the people that rip off the United States, we are particularly among the best. So
The USMCA is great for all countries. It's good for all countries. We do have a negotiation coming up over the next year or so to adjust it or terminate it.
Mr. President, I'll say a word on USMCA if I may, Mr. President. It is a basis for a broader negotiation. Some things about it are going to have to change. And part of the way you've conducted these tariffs has taken advantage of existing aspects of USMCA. So it's going to have to change. There's other elements that are come, and that's part of what we're going to discuss.
Right.
all right. Now, that particular moment, Canada is not afraid to go on offense here. Mr. President, there are some things about the USMCA that you have taken advantage of in order to be able to do what it is that you're doing now. Those things need to change too. So he wasn't just there to say, yes, whatever you want, Mr. President, and no, we will not be the 51st state. Canada is not for sale. But we have some things that we're bringing to the table too, because we're not happy about a few things. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention is in this portion here, you will notice often that President Trump has his hands between his legs, as you can see here, together, and he's slumped, right? Mark Carney, if you remember earlier on in this press thing when Donald Trump was talking about his big announcement that he had coming, right? Mark Carney said, I'm sitting on the edge of my seat. Well, as you can see throughout the entire press conference, he literally is sitting on the edge of the seat, right? He's not sitting all the way back. When you sit on the edge of the seat like that, yes, it really helps you maintain the posture. Mark Carney is 5'9". Donald Trump is allegedly 6'3". At many times during this moment, when you see them side by side, Donald Trump's head is lower than Mark Carney's. There's a lot of significance in that type of posture and body language. Just wanted to point that out because I had also noticed that, and we got talking about other things, and I did not mention that on the show. I was going through my notes, what I missed last week. Didn't want to miss those two little tidbits. So yeah, kids and cubs. Good news. Little bits of good news from Mark Carney along the way. Other bits of good news that he received, it seems that Andrew Scheer, the interim leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, has also indicated that there are certain subjects on which he believes the Conservatives and the Liberals will be able to work together in the interests of the nation when it comes to dealing with the United States. I will believe that when it lasts, but it is still interesting to hear Andrew Scheer say things of the like. So again, the proof is in the pudding, though, with the Conservatives, because they say a lot of things. Now, of course, the Conservatives are also in the position that they certainly don't want to take down the government until their dear leader is back in his seat in Parliament, has another session again. So that will go at least to this fall. So yes, there might be some opportunities for the Conservatives and some willingness to be a little more conciliatory, considering that there's not much that they can do right now and they're relatively impotent. All right, kits and cubs, before we go, I'm just taking a look at the time here. Okay, a couple of little notes for you here with regard to Pope Leo XIV. Like we mentioned, he delivered his first blessing in St. Peter's Square on Sunday and focused on peace. During his 15-minute address, he quoted the late Pope Francis, stating that there currently is a third world war being waged in pieces, and he called for peace in Ukraine and Gaza. Quote, "I carry in my heart the suffering of the beloved Ukrainian people. May every effort be made to reach a true, just, and lasting peace as soon as possible. I'm deeply saddened by what's happening in the Gaza Strip. Let the fighting cease immediately, let humanitarian aid be provided to the exhausted civilian population, and let all hostages be freed." Throughout Peru, there have been celebrations. For many, they consider him to be the Peruvian Pope, and it's been an interesting exercise to watch the Holy See present him to the world as the second Pope from the Americas and not the first American Pope. Um, Pope Leo XIV identified artificial intelligence as one of the main challenges that humanity faces. And of course, he also is not without controversy. He's facing some accusations that he mishandled certain cases with regards to sexual abuse involving priests from his time in Chicago and in Peru. The Vatican so far has not addressed these accusations. The Pope will be inaugurated during a Mass at St. Peter's Square this coming Sunday, which will be the official launch of his papacy. The last papal inauguration drew about 200,000 people, including many world leaders, and in this case, they are also expected to attend. Of course, over the course of the weekend was Mother's Day. We don't have data for Canada yet, but in the United States, it said about 84% of American adults celebrate Mother's Day, spending a projected $34 billion to mark the occasion, or about $260 US on average per person per day. That's expected to be up to $5 from what was spent last year, according to a survey from the National Retail Federation. The top gift for about 3/4 of the people is, of course, flowers, then cards, and about 2/3 of the people spend money on a planned outing. About 1/3 of the people celebrate people other than their biological mothers. There you go. Some interesting facts about Mother's Day. Couple of other little things here. Let's see. A fourth round of indirect talks between Iran and the United States have been completed in Oman. This is the highest level contact between the two nations in 7 years after IQ-47 withdrew from the first nuclear deal in 2018. Though publicly both sides say that they are far apart, they have agreed to continue talks for a fifth round. The U.S. is demanding an end to uranium enrichment, but Iran's foreign minister says that that is non-negotiable and it must continue. Iran is believed to be imminently close to weapons-grade enrichment capability. There has been a U.S.-led negotiated ceasefire between India and Pakistan over hostilities occurring in the Kashmir region. It was a surprise because, as I mentioned, the United States didn't want to be involved in any way, so it had indicated. But the President of the United States has promised on social media to find a solution and that he would increase trade substantially with both great nations. Voters in Albania went into an election over the course of the weekend. The incumbent prime minister was seeking a fourth consecutive mandate. He leads the Socialista Party and has promised to secure membership in the EU by 2030. His main rival was Albania's first post-communist president in 1982, who then became prime minister. And I'm going to take a look and see if they have results yet in. The closest that we have here is from about 5 hours ago from Balkan Insight, and said that Edi Rama's Socialist Party leads in Albanian parliamentary elections. About 7 hours ago, only about 27% of the ballot boxes are counted. But as of 5 hours ago, it seems the Socialist Party was leading with 52.87% of the vote. The Democratic Party second with 34.25%, with votes counted in 1,495 polling stations out of 5,225 in total. If the trend continues, it's expected that the Socialists will win over 80 seats in Parliament out of 140 total, which would be a majority and an increase on their haul from the last parliamentary polls in 2021. So it looks at the moment that the incumbent government will be returned, and possibly with a greater number of seats than it went into the election with. In a surprise televised address delivered from the Kremlin at 2 a.m., Russian President Vladimir Putin proposed restarted direct talks with Ukraine in Istanbul on Thursday. His plans sidestepped a proposal for a 30-day ceasefire that was proposed by the United States that should have come into force today. President Zelensky says that this is a positive move, but that his team is still, at the time, that his team was still expecting Russia to confirm the ceasefire today. UK Prime Minister Starmer from Kyiv, where he met with people, other world leaders, in person and virtually, stated, quote, that all there were aligned with the US position, saying that this should be a 30-day unconditional ceasefire without conditions. But Putin did respond by putting in certain conditions. It seems that the U.S. administration has convinced Zelensky to take the meeting, despite the 30-day ceasefire not starting today, and that is going to happen. And again, Zelensky sort of goading Putin, saying that I hope he doesn't find a reason to an excuse to not come this time. Prime Minister Mark Carney did participate in that conference virtually as well. But this would be the first face-to-face meeting between Putin and Zelensky since 2022, if it happens. So there you go. And as we mentioned, the President of the United States is set for a trip to the Middle East that starts in Saudi Arabia today. And the Hamas move to announce the release of the last Israeli-American hostage, living hostage, could have something to do with that, to try to get to the attention of the President of the United States to hope to move things along. Kits and Cubs, that's all I've got for you today. That's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us, because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. If you would like to help us, Kits and Cubs, by not missing an episode of our program, because you might be busy and on the go and not always able to watch. Well, hey, we're portable. Take us along with you. Thanks to the Ray Girl, you can do that by going to our pod page, podpage.com/the-true-north-eager-beaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words. And if you go there and click subscribe, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you. You don't even have to go looking for it. Or if you're watching right now, you can just scan this QR code that appeared, and that will bring you right there so that you can subscribe. Thank you so much for that. If you would like to make sure that you are a member of the Damn Fam on our YouTube channel, surf on down to True North Eager Beaver at YouTube, and Kits, Cassie, and Elaine will be welcoming you and urging you to click our buttons. Remember, if you're watching, if you smash with our buttons now, you won't have to remember to do it before you leave. Like, share, and subscribe. They're right there, just waiting for a little tickle. Makes us happy, and it helps us with the algorithm. So thank you for all of your help. If you would like to assist us with the costs that we incur with preparing the show and delivering it to you, because you like what we do, you find it has value, it resonates with you, and you would like to help keep the adventure going, we would appreciate your help. You can do so with a contribution, an enthusiastic expression of your encouragement at the Beaver Lodge. We have an emergency hydration fund, and we ask you for your help to help us fight the scourge that is dry beaver. Yum, 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 yum. Keep your beaver moist. A little contribution to our tip fund, well, it helps a lot. And of course, we reinvest everything into the show. So we thank you so much for your support. If you're not able to contribute, hey, please don't worry. Times are tight. We understand. And the gifts of your attention and participation are the ones that matter the most to us. So please write to us. truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is our email address. Let us know what you think about the show. If you got some constructive criticism, some compliments, some guests that you would like us to have on, we're open to all those suggestions. So please write to us. Also, We would like to prepare a Q&A show for you if you've got questions about politics, whether you would like our takes on stuff, or would like to know how the show operates. Please send us your questions at truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. We need enough of them to prepare a show, and we need a whole lot more of them if we are going to prepare this show. So we hope to get your participation to be able to deliver on that, because I know that some kids would really enjoy that. So thank you so much for that. Also, if you would like to contribute to us directly in a completely buy Canadian fashion by avoiding the CE Tech Bros in the United States, True North Eager Beaver is the address to which you can send your direct transfer. It goes through your bank, avoids PayPal, and comes directly into our bank account. And we also get 100% of your donation when you donate that way. So it's win-win. Thank you so much for all of your help. If you want to reach us in other ways, our socials, at True Eager is where you can reach us at Blue Sky or on the shitter. True North Eager Beaver is our address on Facebook, our original home. And if you happen to be watching on our YouTube channel, either live with the Damn Fam or later, right here in the comment section, leave us some thoughts. We read everything, even though we're not able to get back to everyone. But we thank you for all that you contribute. It really does help us with the show. All right, kids and cubs. Because democracy is something that you do, remember there's a liberal leadership race in Quebec. You need to cast your votes from June 9th to the 14th, and the results will be unveiled on July 14th. There we go. That's more like it. Okay. And of course, kids and cubs, please, it's always a good time to put pen to paper. Very, very, very important. So in whatever province that you are in, there are things you are noticing that your government is doing that shows that they're maybe not on Team Canada as much as they should be. Perhaps a letter to your elected representative stating that you would like to see much more cooperation would be very, very important and a useful thing to do. Now, if you have a specific issue, like for example, if you're in Alberta and you stand with if you stand with, well, you could say, yes, our Indigenous friends and neighbors and fellow citizens, then yes, you might want to write to the government and let them know that you really, really do not appreciate them overriding treaty obligations and insulting First Peoples in that manner and First Nation sovereignty. That would be a very useful thing to do. So we appreciate it and hope that you are able to do that. Thank you so much. Words of wisdom, kids and cubs. I'm going to stick with Mr. Grizzly. Suffering is optional. Pain is an unavoidable part of life. So if it's allergy season and you're suffering and you have the option not to, thanks to medication, dose up. Cheers. Down the hatch. All right. Kids and cubs. It could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. Now, some audience participation. I need you to ask me, kids and cubs, to cue the cock. What's that? Oh, well, yeah. I can do that for you. Coming right up. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, kids and cubs, before we go, as always, a little bit of news about Canadians who make us proud. Over the course of the weekend, there was a World Relays event taking place in China. was a big event. It also helped qualify people for the Olympics and the World Championships, if I'm not mistaken, as well. Canada's mixed team of 100-meter sprinters will not get to go to the World Championships because it's not an event at the World Championships, but it will be an event at the next Olympics. The mixed team won the gold medal in the mixed 4x100 relay. So that is super encouraging for Team Canada. Said McCreath, Marie-Héloïse Leclerc, Dwayne Asamota, and Eliezer Ajibi prevailed in a season's best 40.30 seconds over Jamaica for the $40,000 US top prize at the Guangdong Olympic Stadium. So congratulations to them. This is a great achievement by these sprinters, because whenever you win a gold medal in a world championships, essentially, I'm not sure if this is, well, technically, well, I guess this for them is the world championships, because this event will not be at the world championships itself. So for all intents and purposes, yeah, you can say that this is indeed the world championships. So yeah, um, congratulations to them. I'll put them up here on the screen a little bit there so you can see them. But yes, wonderful team of sprinters winning gold for us at that event. Also, other good news for Canada at the event, because Canada's 4x100 team, which is the men's team, which is the reigning Olympic champions, did lose some time during a baton exchange between Aaron Brown and Jerome Blake, but they did win the bronze medal at this event, which is good. Also for Team Canada, finishing on the podium is always a good thing. Uh, so yes, they finished on with the bronze medal there. Canada's 4x400 mixed team of Austin Cole, Lauren Gale, Nathan George, and Zoe Shearer will compete at the Worlds. They booked a spot there after taking 10 seconds off their season best in the second round of qualifying. So that's good for them. They needed a top three finish to advance, and they placed third by holding off India by almost 2 seconds during that race. Canada's women's 4x100 team finished fifth in the final, which is good for them. They were sixth at the 2024 Olympics, which is good. And they've also clinched a berth at the Worlds with that performance. And at the women's 4x400 final, the Canadian team struggled in the women's 4x400, and they crossed the line seventh, which is a spot below where they finished at the Olympics. But in the process, did manage to book a spot at the Worlds. So all the teams, I think, will have qualified for the World Athletic Relays when they come up. So congratulations to all those Canadian athletes who did a great job. Fencing superstar Eleanor Harvey participated in a World Cup event held in Canada in Vancouver. So it was her home crowd. She won 4 straight elimination matches and went on to take home bronze at home at the Fédération Internationale d'Escrime World Cup. So that is a great result for her. In the semifinal, she was outmatched by American Lee Kiefer, who's the world number 1 and 2-time reigning Olympic champion, by a score of 15-10, but did make it to the final. And over the course of the weekend, Bianca Andreescu had a big win at the Rome Open and has advanced to the next round. And with that, re-enters the top 100 players in the world, which means she should be getting an automatic entry into the French Open as a result of that. So she's worked very hard to climb up from that. So that's very good for her. And a young up-and-coming tennis player named Dan Martin won an event yesterday. So that's good for him. He, I think, recently entered the top 500 of the world, which is a big event a significant achievement when you are a new player up and coming on the scene. because they only start ranking you at 1,000. And then when you're in the top 500, it's a specific level. It's not that it necessarily gains you any extra benefit other than easier access to higher level tournaments and that type of stuff, which again, if you win, have higher points and more money, which help you fund your career and your climb up the standings and all that kind of stuff. But yes, Dan Martin won an event in Villahermosa, Mexico. And with that, he climbs the rankings up to, and I will take a look at that for you, kits and cubs. Sorry, here. There's a lot of people named Martin here in the standings, so I'm doing a quick look for his name to 516. So he hasn't entered the 500, but he's about to. So up from 583 to 516 with that victory. So it's always good to encourage up and coming talent. He started appearing on the rankings last year, so making some very progress, getting to the close to the top 500 only on his second year playing at the level that he would be ranked. So great achievements from our Canadians at home and abroad. That's all I got for you today, kids and cubs. Have a most beaverific day, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.